everyone. My name is Ergo Josh, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I will be talking about a few things tonight on the course that I'm taking currently. I plan to tell you guys about this on my main channel relatively soon. However, I think it would be good for me to clear my head a little bit first. What you see me drawing right now is actually some of the homework from my course that I'm taking right now, called my head construction course. And the other course that I'm taking is on perspective. The purpose of this course is to understand the basic muscular and bony structures of the head. And actually, it's not even muscle, it's really just the bone, but in a simplified manner, mostly focusing on the proportions. Now, if you're used to me drawing, or you're used to watching me on my main channel, you're probably wondering why I would take a course on this topic. But the main reason is because I truly feel that there is a little bit more room for improvement when it comes to my speed and my ability to create without reference. And so this course is aimed at teaching you the very basic fundamentals of understanding the forms in the head in such a way that you'll actually be able to remember them and use them to create your own heads and your own characters without too much reference. At the end of the day, you may have heard me talk or say in my videos that my goal is to be able to draw and create characters that I see in my mind without having to be shackled by references. And when I say shackled by references, I don't mean that I plan to not use reference, because that's not really necessary. But I mean that I would love to be able to draw quite a lot of material without having to find references first and then come back to finalize and embellish and correct things with reference later on. So in taking this course, a lot of the focus right now is on the perspective and having that correct, and I have learned so much already. It's interesting how many things I look at differently now thanks to the professor's intuition. One of the most important things is the keystone, which is the space in between your eyebrows. That area is quite important. First off, I didn't really realize that it rests on a plane or on a line that goes down the face, and it moves backwards into your head from there. And then that line is quite straight down from the head if you were to draw the head starting out with a sphere. I would actually draw that line at an angle extending from the head, usually in my artwork, and now I realize that almost all people's faces just go straight down, and it's actually the features that protrude and give the profile of the head its unique shape that can change between person to person and between race and ethnicities. Another thing I noticed is the proportions of the head are not that I didn't know that the head can basically be divided vertically into 3 pieces, but that reminder of keeping that in mind is really something that I needed, and realizing that that last third division is really key to being able to change someone's character and appearance, and trying to keep everything straight when you're drawing a very masculine or feminine character. I don't know if any of you have noticed, but I may seem like I'm very anxious right now, and it's because I'm trying my best to keep my voice from reaching a very loud realized that the preference I have for my recordings on this channel is not to be a whisper like this, because that's just pretty boring and could possibly be annoying, at least for me. But I also don't want to be as overbearing as I have been in the past, and I won't do that now because my microphone is quite sensitively tuned to capture the richness of my voice as I speak in this soft manner. But I say all of that to say that it takes quite a bit of control that I'm not quite used to yet, and which is something I actually am enjoying and looking forward to seeing myself develop, because I do plan to have some sort of engagements with my voice in the future. And even if it's so much as just public speaking, I really enjoy the idea of being able to control my voice and have it as a sharpened tool and not just something that's impressive for the first few minutes of people meeting me or hearing one of my videos. But as you can see, I'm still slowly, very slowly making my way through the construction of this head. It's a difficult thing for someone of my skill level to do, because I have already done this. I focused on these kind of studies mid to late 2017. I would actually drew these kind of exact same studies in my personal sketchbook, pencil and paper, and I made quite a bit of progress, and eventually I got to the point where I didn't need to construct everything so much. And especially now that I've gotten to be quite stylized, not only does spending all of this time to construct things confuse me a little bit, but I keep going for the more stylized look, and I have to keep pulling things back and shifting them in order to get it closer to the likeness of the reference. And speaking of the reference, in this case, it's something that's not necessarily important. As my instructor had said, the most important thing for these kind of exercises is to get a feel for developing the best drawing that you can, and let that increase your technique and speed simultaneously, to the point where all of your drawings in the future become effortlessly amazing and controlled. I'm adding a lot to what he said, but that's what I get out of it. And so I keep trying my best to remind myself that it's not necessarily about having it look like that person, especially since, I'm not drawing eyes in this assignment, or eyelids and the pupil or the lips, and we're just doing a very basic diagram for the nose, but I'm just drawing a diagram, an armature for the skull, and so having an exact likeness is really not that necessary. But yeah, we're trying our best to pay attention to the differences, because you would be missing out on a lot of what the instructor has to critique if you draw your typical European masculine head for every single angle. But you would also be cheating yourself of a great amount of drawing experience if you were to slave away erasing and shifting just to get that perfect likeness. And so I've made a little bit of progress doing that. It's still difficult for me not to because I have so much experience built up in another area, but that's also why I took this class, because I was concerned that I had built up some bad habits, and I want to get rid of them, namely my number one habit of rushing my line work. And so I've been working on that quite diligently ever since December, and I'm quite happy with the progress that I've made. If you are still watching, please feel free to comment any suggestions you have for the quality, or things you'd like me to talk about for the next few videos. I'm anticipating it might be a little dry going forward, because I'm not as inclined, not not that. It's really just that it's more difficult for me to draw for fun, quote unquote, because these studies take quite a bit of time, and I'd hate to draw something for fun and then have it not be something I want to put online. But I guess if you guys don't mind, I could put them here, and then I feel like this recording is quite far away from the screen, so I think I thought it might have been nice to have the personal touch to seeing the artist as they work, along with the image and a vague blown out view of the references. But yeah, let me know what you think of the setup and the quality. This is, I think, my third video that's available on this channel, so I think we're making good progress. And that reminds me, thank you guys so much for 1,000 subscribers on this channel. If you aren't familiar with YouTube, that's one of the biggest accomplishments you can make. It's probably the second biggest accomplishment, to be honest. The first would be, of course, getting the required watch hours to become a monetized channel, which is probably the most difficult feat for any new channel, because it's quite a lot of time, a very large amount of time. But once it happens, everything's kind of downhill from there, in a sense. I mean, I can get that many watch hours in a single video in just a week or two on my main channel, but it sure wasn't like that in the beginning. Okay, yes. Talking about the reference, though, I don't mean to offend anyone in any way, but I'm just going to speak from my own just raw experience. This reference is from someone of Eastern Asian descent. I don't know exactly where she's from, but I find them to be the most difficult to draw in this way because their features appear much more flat than on the other extreme end, the European skull. And if you are wondering what the differences are, it's basically that the eyes are much less sunken in than someone with a European descent, and then the noses are much softer and closer to the face on an Asian face than they are for a European or Caucasian. And then the bone structure just tends to create a flatter face overall, especially for the females. And so that's exactly who I'm drawing in this video. So it's quite difficult to imagine the skull structure under it, especially in this stylized structure. And so I had a little bit of trouble with this, but again, if you didn't know already, and by the way, what I'm looking at to the left is my iPad, which has the instructor's example drawings, which are extremely helpful. I'm happy to say I'm at the point where I don't need to look at them now, but I definitely did for this video. But as I was saying, yes, the head-on view capitalizes on the difficulty of the flatness of a lot of your Eastern faces, and no matter what race they are, to be honest, drawing a head from straight head-on is the most difficult for me, whereas drawing a head at a 3/4 angle view is the easiest, and then a profile view is about in between those. And even extreme angles I find to be quite a fun challenge, because it's usually just I didn't do something enough, or I did something too much. Whereas the difficulties I find when I'm drawing a face that's head-on or from a profile are much more complex, and I don't know if something's too big or too small, or too high to the left, or too high, or too low, or to the right, or to the left too much. It's a lot of complex things, but usually it's just for the extreme angles. It's just, did I push the foreshortening enough, or did I not push it enough? And usually it's just a matter of moving the features in different proportions of distance within each other. So you have that. At this point, I'm definitely quite quite happy with how the drawing looks, and I'm adding a little bit more flair since I have a skull example. I purchased this app, I think it's called Muscle Premium. It's quite expensive because it can be used professionally in hospital environments, but it allows you to see quite a detailed diagram of the entire body, from the skeletal level and all of the names of the bones, and they're all selectable and isolatable, to the ligaments, to the bones, and the vascular system, the nerve system, the cardiovascular system, and I think that's it. But that's quite a lot of detail, and they have all of these different subcategories named, and you can click on them to view them isolated like I did here in the reference you can see at the top left side of the screen. And it's been quite useful because I can just rotate the head at any angle I want to match the reference, and it's quite a good exercise to do that because it allows you to train your eyes to see through just the face, which is something that our brains have conditioned us to do. Otherwise, we just see a face and focus on the symbol of it rather than the structures and the details of it all. And I find myself these days looking at people and admiring, I can get an idea for what their skull looks like under their skin, which sounds quite terrifying, but I feel like it's something that anyone will find themselves thinking about once they've studied the head to this detail, and it's reassuring to learn things and then notice them in reality. So, for example, the keystone, wider keystones and taller keystones are usually more prevalent in women than men, and it's nice to see that in real life. And then you see tiny keystones that are short and skinny on men, which is contrary to what you would think, right? You would think everything on men should be bigger, but not in the case of keystones. Sorry, I had to scratch my nose a little bit there. But it's quite an interesting thing to look at. I've never paid so much attention to the area between the eyebrows as much as I do now, and it's quite a big deal. You see the most masculine of men in movies, and actors and actresses, they have the smallest keystones. It's very, very interesting, and I'm excited to be able to play with these kind of things when I'm developing my own characters, when I get good at this stuff. But yeah, I think I'm going to end the recording here, even though there's a little bit more footage to go from, but I don't want to just ramble on and have to edit things out. But again, I definitely would appreciate any advice or suggestions that you guys have. Thanks so much for taking a risk and subscribing to this new baby ASMR channel, and I definitely hope to continue this and help you guys get to sleep or whatever you use these videos for in the future. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.